This NASCAR Fantasy Strategy edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today. We're also brought to you by KUTT. KUTT is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Head to KUTT.com, that's KUTT.com, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. 15% off of everything when you use promo code PLAYOFF.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, and today we have a very special third seat. This man probably puts in. Listen, I think we put in some work, but dude, this guy makes everybody in the space look bad. He is Ryan Rance from ifantasyrace.com. Ryan, buddy, you, my friend, have single-handedly made our jobs easier because of the work that you put in and all of the stats that you pull and all of the ways that research is made fun. But we have the honor now of talking to you and just picking your brain for information as we get ready for this 2024 season. So welcome in, Ryan, to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Cody, buddy, how are you? I know that you're shuffling your way through, what is it, 40 inches of snow right now, I think? Is that the
40, 60. It's a lot. That's all I know.
All I know is that you're still plowing through. Thankfully, you made it from your living room to the downstairs. I'm sure you weren't snowed in there.
Yeah, it's we got so much snow, it's going to start coming inside soon, I think. So hopefully I'll be able to keep getting down here.
Oh my God. I couldn't even imagine. Like if one day I woke up and literally like my entire fourth room was all snowed in, I think I would probably cry.
Yeah, whatever. We have 20 inches of snow on the ground. Now we're getting rain and snow mixtures. It's creating a lot of melting and ice, and it's a ton of fun. So, oh well.
I don't know if you can tell, Cody, but that's called sunlight. There's sunlight.
I don't know what that is anymore.
And Ryan, we established that you, sir, narrowly missed a pretty big storm yourself there.
I mean, I'm coming from West Michigan, and I mean, it can snow like crazy here. I mean, last year, right before the front end subdivision, you know, if they can't plow the snow with the monster trucks, that they use, they have to bring in the front end loaders. No, it's bad.
Oh my God. I couldn't even imagine. That's rough. All right. Well, enough about the weather. The icebreaker is done. We've been talking all the last couple of weeks about the upcoming 2024 season. We've covered odds. We've covered all kinds of stuff, but we haven't really dug too deep into the entire fantasy aspect of NASCAR and of the way you can play. I mean, I know we're a gambling podcast, but we've also done DFS in the past. And so we've covered we touched on some NASCAR fantasy, but it exists first and foremost. I mean, for those of you guys who aren't really familiar, it exists, and it's a pretty niche market right now. But I have a feeling that as more people are brought aware of NASCAR fantasy, I think the popularity may start to explode alongside gambling. So, but Ryan, you've been in the NASCAR fantasy space for a while. How long, first of all, have you been in it, and what have you seen over the last few years as far as growth in this market.
I kind of feel like fantasy is almost taking a backseat to betting and DFS, but I mean, I guess DFS is sort of, fantasy in a way, but overall, I kind of feel like fantasy is it's kind of really shrunk, over the recent years. I mean, ESPN has gone away, Yahoo has gone away, but when I first started really was back in probably high school because I had a graphic design class. So that was an hour of fantasy NASCAR before lunch for me. So, somebody that, it's supposed to be about the school newspaper, but somebody wrote a very bad article, and then school newspaper part was canceled. So, I had a lot of time for fantasy NASCAR. So then I did that. And then it really picked up in college. Then we used to do a game at NASCAR.com, which was basically kind of like head-to-head, player versus player, have a salary draft, which is really exciting, the 24-hour auction. And then, I worked on some other websites. I worked at, what was it? OneBadWheel.com is really where I first started, which as people would know, One Bad Wheel right now, it's FRCS Pro. So that's really where I got my start. Then I worked there for a few years, helping Darren, or for a little bit helping Darren. Then I did another site called On Pit Row, which doesn't exist anymore. But then in 2009, that's when I started ifantasyrace.com. I kind of figured, doing the ifantasyrace.com is running the way I would want to run a fantasy website. Yeah. Some of those tools I made are basically almost even if I'm the only person in the world who uses them, I like it.
Well, I'm here to tell you, you're not the only person in the world that uses them. In fact, most of us in the industry love to pull it up. And I will say too, the very first time that I ever came across your site, I was a little bit, I thought, oh my God, these are all fantasy. I thought it was about fantasy. I thought you were doing like, racing on iRacing and then pulling the stats from that. So I had to sort of get myself acquainted with it for a second because I was like, oh my God, this race never actually happened. This is a fantasy race. So I had to stop for a second, but thank God I figured it out because it has been an invaluable tool for us.
ifantasyrace.com is just about the same age as like iRacing almost in a way. I think it's almost registered in like the same year. So I didn't know about it really.
There you go. That's awesome.
All right. Well, Cody, I know you got a ton of questions for Ryan. What do you got?
Say that again, Rod. You cut out on my end.
Oh, well, you're cutting out on
my internet's still not recovering from all the snow.
Oh my God. It's been snowed in. No, I was just saying, what do you got for Ryan? Yeah, Cody's right now. Cody is buried under a ton of snow. I tell you what, this would be a fantastic opportunity for us to step away for the first time and tell you about one of our great sponsors that we have. Let's tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. You can win 100x with some spicy plays. Just keep an eye out. I'm pretty sure that as the clash gets closer, we are going to have ourselves some Underdog plays for that as well. Also, keep an eye on George Kittle's receptions. I don't care what it ends at or what it even begins at. You take the more than for this weekend's game. George Kittle is going to have himself a game. You are going to have yourself a game on Underdog Fantasy. So watch along, make a picks, maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog's going to double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, Cody.
I'm back. Hopefully you can hear and see me this time.
We can. If you're on the traditional channel, you may not know exactly what just happened because I'm probably going to cut most of that out. But
yeah, good idea.
For those of you on YouTube, you got to see the whole thing. So this is why you joined YouTube. But Cody, one more chance. What do you got to ask Ryan?
Yeah, well, I was just curious, like what got you into NASCAR? I mean, it sounds like you've been a NASCAR fan. If you started playing NASCAR Fantasy in high school, how did you get started into following NASCAR, liking NASCAR? What got you into it?
I mean, I've always just really almost been like a NASCAR fan. I remember even in 5th grade, doing the current events. I remember my article was Dale Earnhardt Jr. winning some sort of race, They aged me a little bit, but
that's awesome.
No, that was great. My article, then that and Oklahoma City bombing, that year, not a good thing, but but I mean, that was my current event then. I mean, I just always loved NASCAR. I even used to run like a neighborhood league, which is where things really picked up for me. We were about up to about 20 people. So
Wow. Nice. That's awesome. So what so obviously you kind of got into the fantasy stuff then in high school and everything and progressed, and now you are where you are. What's your favorite part of, I mean, is there like a certain fantasy way you like to play? Is it DFS these days? Is it betting on NASCAR? What's your favorite way to get in on the action?
I would say my neighborhood league was definitely my favorite way of all time. I mean, that was just like a special place in my heart, but things always age out, but that was definitely my number one.
That's awesome.
It's always hard, neighborhood leagues to keep stuff going forever.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Things change, times change, unfortunately. So that sucks, but sounds like it was a pretty fun league.
It was, 20 people, live auction draft, all gathered around the table in the basement of a hobby shop for draft day or around the kitchen counter.
Man.
So
sounds like something I want to do now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is why you do this. You start yourself a nice little neighborhood league with all of your friends and family, and you got stuff to talk about on
and
holidays.
That's also how I got created in like the website stuff too, because I ran the website for it. So that kind of introduced that door for me,
Taught
the
yourself.
gateway.
Nice. That's awesome. So it all ties in together.
Then that website crashed, and then it got a little bit harder,
So listen, let's talk about that website then, because that's kind of where we were going for this one. If you take a look at ifantasyrace.com, I mean, first of all, you're just going to be able to scroll and see everything. I mean, there's total speed rankings index, there's loop data score, there's green flag speed, fastest late in a run. I mean, if you probably could think of the stat, Ryan's already thought of it and researched it. So that's why it's a great resource for those of you who are out there in the betting world too. I mean, this is not just fantasy. And I know that we'll talk more about fantasy here in a second and the strategies of how we're going about doing some of these, but I want to first focus on the research part of this, because as a bettor, we're always looking for numbers. We're always looking for the ways to craft our bets and to sort of back those bets up. I mean, and you've got everything in one place. You got FanDuel, DraftKings differentials, like you've got everything in one place. So first of all, why? And second of all, like, how much time does this take to compile all these stats?
Too long. It takes too long. But I'll tell you, the crown jewel, I created the crown jewel stat this year or during the off season. It's one of my favorite stats is total speed rankings, which is obviously, it's kind of like a more consumer friendly version of speed by segment, because it makes the speed over the segments clear, because before it'd be by the point thousandths, but I made it consumer friendly, 1, 2, 3, 4, strictly based on speed over the segments. But my crown jewel, it really doesn't come in place until about Las Vegas, because studying speeds for Daytona, that's kind of dumb to do. Studying speeds for Atlanta, that's really dumb to do. But, at Las Vegas will come to place. The total speed ranking, next gen total speed rankings is my crown jewel. You can find it very clearly on the homepage. It's the dark horse, in favor of the dark horse, the four dark horse, this year. But it shows the driver speed over all the races in the next gen car, the specific track.
That's insane. And so when you look at this, the dark horse as well, I mean, first of all, the graphics are awesome, but as you click on any one of these, like we'll click on Las Vegas, if we can find it there, Las Vegas speed rankings. So that's the first one you're talking about. When you look at it, it's fully sortable. You can sort by Las Vegas 2022, 21, or 23 rather. I'm telling you right now, this is all just laid out in a way that if you want to go back and sort of fact check us, this is the place to do it. Because if we're telling you that so-and-so, let's say Kyle Larson's super fast on Las Vegas over the last couple of seasons, well, I'm looking here. He's got a 3.5 average speed rank over the last 2 seasons on this track. You know how I know that? Because Ryan's researched that for us, and he's got it out there. Fifth at Las Vegas 2022, fifth at 2022, number 2, second. I mean, it's all right there for you. So, I mean, it's just a matter of you being able to pull it up. So, I mean, honestly, what drove you to want to put all of this out there for everybody? Because this is a very arduous task, and not a lot of people are willing to do this kind of work for people.
I guess it's just that I'm really dedicated to it. I mean, I guess that's really it.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, this takes some serious. I mean, just again, like I've used the site now for years here, but looking at it again and going through everything, like Rod said, your graphics are amazing. Everything looks it looks cool on the page, which is always a bonus. But yeah, I mean, just all the stuff you have available, the speed rankings, man, this is such a great site. I use a lot of your statistics when it comes to helping make our picks on a weekly basis, as far as trends on this certain types of tracks and speed rankings, and the results don't always tell the whole story in a lot of cases. You can go back and you can look last year and you could be like, oh, well, Tyler Reddick, he didn't even finish this race. So, whatever. But then I saw you had posted something earlier. I was just going to go ahead and claim this right now, Rod, because you know how much I love Tyler Reddick this year. So I'm going to use my stat from my fantasy race here to make sure that I claim him as my winner. But you had posted about, he had a solid year last year, 6th, 8.4 running average, led 51 of the 53 laps until a parts failure marked the end of his evening. So again, you look at it, finishes 21st, but that doesn't tell the whole story. And that's something that I really like about your site. And what it provides is it tells the rest of the story of, what else went on in this race besides just looking at him and be like, oh, okay, he finished 21st. Who cares?
Yeah, I would say I have probably about 3, maybe potentially 4 things, that, expand upon the stories of the races. First, it all starts with a scouting report, which is like in-depth race recap for what happened the last time they race. I make it a little bit more simpler if a driver has problems. I have another post called the Asterisk Mark Report, which I'll probably come out with that tomorrow for the Clash. I'm circling back to the Clash. I've been in COTA mode week, for the last week. I mean, it's so much stuff happened at COTA. Like, one example for the Asterisk Mark report for COTA would be like Daniel Suarez, one of the best cars, problems late, swept up, in the mayhem. Yep. And then another thing, that's also part of, that really makes races apart clear is X-Ray. X-Ray is almost kind of like a throwback to the first iFantasy Race tool page I ever made, which was from Yahoo Sports. Yahoo used to have like a chart that maps it out. So I have X-Ray, it shows the running order throughout the race at consistent intervals. And then, I get to use my stylus also too, for that, which is, I finally found a use for my stylus, that cost, way too much, finally found a use for it, but, and then another thing, that helps break it down races a little bit more clearly is I have another post called Pros Rankings, which stands for projected ranking of strength. I always wanted a cute acronym for pros. So, I finally got one, in time, but it shows you what 10 drivers were subjectively the best in a given race, because you can't just look at, the results and, believe it.
Yeah, that's the worst part about it too, is that more often than not, if you're just reading the box scores, it never tells the whole story. It honestly just tells you what happened that last lap that everybody finished in. But you're absolutely right. I mean, these asterisk reports and everything, and listen, all of that is free. So, and I know you've got another level of membership. So if you're giving away all of that stuff for free, you got to tell everybody what's behind closed doors, because they're going to want that even more.
I mean, I write about every driver every week, and I break it down basically into 4 main posts for 4 weekly posts for like the fantasy content or the content you can use basically for betting, DFS, whatever. I break it down into 4 posts, weekly posts: top tier elite, front runner rankings, mid pack predictions, and then the low tier. So that's basically dividing up, like the 36 car field into 4, breaking up all that stuff. And then there's also a weekend come around post for it, where it's kind of adding in the weekend information into the mix called confidence. We added qualifying and the practice information. So basically that post is done after all the information for the week is in.
And it's only $76 for the entire season, folks.
Yeah,
that is an absolute steal.
Just $2 a week. When I first started ifantasyrace.com, the premium part in 2012, actually. So, 12 years now, that one person thought, oh my goodness, this is crazy, because I had Jordan McAbee with me at that time. And then, there's what he called like New Hampshire, like the Magic Mile, or, some wrong name, some wrong nickname. Somebody, they go crazy. And then they said, you want us to pay, this much, for the, people thought it was just so crazy back then.
Yeah, that's such a steal. I mean, like you said, $2 per week. That's absolutely nothing when it comes to how you can use this for your fantasy leagues, for your DFS. I mean, you've got DraftKings specific things, you got FanDuel specific things. you've got every tool on here. So it's, yeah, that price pales in comparison to the amount of information you're getting and tools that you're getting.
One good DFS week can pay for the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So make sure you look out for that. All right, let's talk a little fantasy here as we have the man who basically is writing the book on NASCAR fantasy each and every week. So we'll get to that. But let me tell you first about KUTT. KUTT is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Peer-to-peer social betting is new, and it's a much better way to bet. I'm telling you right now, you can bet directly against your friends or other users, not just on sports, ladies and gentlemen, but on pop culture, politics. If the event has a verifiable outcome, you can bet on it with your buddies, plus tons of fun social features that give it that feel of a betting social network. Not to mention, KUTT offers the lowest VIG and fully customizable odds, which means you can customize your own bets, customize your own odds, do everything that you want to make your own bets. Not only that, too, but KUTT handles all of the payment side of things, so you never have to chase anybody down for money. There's social features like group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, so much more. Also rewards. Get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. Reminder that KUTT is the peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and legal in 40 states. Head to KUTT.com. That's KUTT.com. Use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool. You're going to get hit rates broken down by leg as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate to learn which bets have or which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. We are in a lockdown drag-out battle with every other show in the entire place. We need to have more merch moved. There are very few days left in January, so get yourself your favorite NASCAR gambling, racing gambling. Look, if you want to get other stuff too, that's fine, but just make sure the bosses know that you are coming here thanks to us. I'm going to let you in on a secret deal. All right, it's not a secret, but it's a good deal nonetheless. You're going to get 15% off of all items all month long by using the promo code playoffs when you go check out. So make sure you get down on that. Buy all your favorite racing gambling merch and support us. Please. Sorry, did I get out of that one poorly again?
You did a great job, like always, Rod.
Thanks. I still can't figure out how to get out of that one. But January's ending soon, so I won't have to worry about it that much at all.
Hopefully they'll have something else for you to have to struggle to get out of, because that's always my favorite part.
They always do. They always come up with a good one for me to just stumble all over. That's that's a lot in life.
Are you doing that live at Curiosity?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you are?
Oh yeah. That's me straight up saying it every single time. It's always brand new. All right. So here's the thing. As we start talking about NASCAR fantasy, there's several that exist. Obviously, those of you who are watching and listening to this, we cover the DFS part of it, but there's also redraft. There's also there's also types where you're kind of doing a DFS, not every week. You do it once, like a salary cap type of a league, and you draft it once, and you have to roll it out for 4 or 5 races in a row. But there's so many more. Ryan, what have you encountered? Like, what kind of styles other than redraft and DFS do you see out there that you are actually tailoring your content toward?
There's one called Driver Group Game, which is from Darren Foth, who owns FRCS Pro. He has a game that's basically like continuation of what Yahoo was. So it's basically an allocation-based game where, A tier, B tier, C tier. That's another game.
That's crazy. And so how does that work? So you draft your players every week or every couple of weeks, or how's that?
You pick them every week. You're allocated with a certain amount of, starts for drivers in Group A, which would be like the best drivers like William Byron. I know the game just came out, I think today. I retweeted it today, I believe. So Group A would be that type of driver. Group B would maybe be like Kyle Busch, drivers who, that type of tier. And then, C drivers who rookies and, drivers kind of aren't very good, but, it's an allocation based game.
Cody, have you ever done one of
Do
those?
you, yeah, actually I've played on the driver group game before. I've got some other ones that are similar in having the tier style where you get like 10 times you can use them during the regular season and then like 5 times in the postseason, stuff like that. I was curious. It's like you obviously create all of this fantasy content and everything. Are you in, like myself, 100 different leagues and play in a bunch of fantasy games, or do you just kind of stick to creating all the info for it and not so much playing it?
These days I'm more in the sticking to the creating the information for it. I get my fantasy NASCAR into that, enough, and doing DFS and that other stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to get. I mean, again, the amount of work and time you spend putting into all this might be tough to keep up with a bunch of fantasy games as well.
People send me a lot of invitations and stuff like that. They think that, I just, want to get invited to everything, but, I'm very limited on time for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of a disservice, too.
I have a question for you. So thinking back on all your time playing fantasy NASCAR, is there one driver that sticks out in your mind that's like, like people who play fantasy football and stuff, like there's always that one fantasy football player like, oh, this guy just had a massive season, led me to a title. I'll never forget having this guy on my team, or I had him over multiple years and he always did me so much. Is there any NASCAR driver throughout your time of playing fantasy that like just sticks out as like a fantasy god, where it was like, oh man, he always helped me, it's always worth his value, that type of stuff?
There's some drivers who I feel like always burn me whenever I used them.
Okay, let's hear that list. I like to know that list just as much.
I would say though that one driver who stands out to me most over the years is Denny Hamlin. I mean, good things can happen.
So consistent.
Bad things can happen. He was the first driver. If you were to ever search iFantasyRace on YouTube, I actually used to have a YouTube channel, but I mean, we're talking about like a decade old that I can't even log into anymore because, I probably used like some weird one-off email address for it. I mean, I couldn't log into it if my life depended on it. But in that video, it was the very first interview I did for One Bad Wheel, where I was interviewed by like a radio station called. It was kind of a pervy fantasy one where, like, what type of fantasy do you want? Some type of thing like that. But on that one, I said, Denny Hamlin, he wasn't very good and things like that. He has to improve it. We're talking about maybe about circa 2007, 2008. Denny Hamlin needs to improve, at intermediate tracks like that. But now, after all these years, Denny Hamlin follows me on Twitter. So,
that's
okay.
Awesome.
So
that's even cool.
so now I can't say anything bad about him. I mean, I love the guy now.
I mean,
that's
still
awesome.
could, but
I could, but Denny Hamlin has actually liked some random tweets of mine too, though, along the way. So,
that's pretty cool.
Last time he liked my random tweets when I was talking about, Ryan Blaney, sneaking into the championship, one race, winner take all, shouldn't be it. Denny Hamlin liked it. So,
yeah, I could see how he wouldn't necessarily like that format so much.
But I feel like there are drivers who burn me, specifically when I pick them. I mean, like Joey Logano.
Yeah, well, I want to know that.
Joey Logano, whenever I'm like too high on Joey Logano, he burns me. I feel like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I've been high on him for years at super speedways. I finally gave up on him for the Daytona 500 last year.
Good timing.
I gave up on him, and I'm tired of this. All he does is just wreck on me. But then he finally wins. But one thing about the total speed rankings, even though I don't suggest anybody actually use speed stats, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. actually ranks number 1 for total speed rankings at Daytona in the next gen. So it actually holds up to an extent.
It does. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, you can't look too much into that, obviously, with finishing results and stuff. But he is consistently good at those tracks. It's Joey Logano. I tell Rod all the time, like, there is not a driver harder in the garage to peg what weeks he's going to show up, because he can show up and lead a bunch of laps and win a race just as much as he can show up and run 20th all day and you never hear from him. He is one of the more frustrating drivers when it comes to betting, when it comes to playing fantasy. I fully agree with you when it comes to that, because I can't seem to figure him out. And like you said, like, it's like every time I do pick him, he's off. And then when I don't pick him, that's when he's on. just cannot seem to get a handle on Joey.
Today, I was actually proofreading some Clash content today, and there's some things I always say about certain drivers, and then I realized I forgot to add in my one part for Joey Logano for all the shorter flat tracks. Joey Logano has the right amount of hate in his heart, to make good things happen. At short these tracks, like at Martinsville, Logano, he'll drive right through people and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So then your new stat is going to be percentage of hate and heart, right? That's you're going to go ahead and chart that for us.
He has the right amount of hate in his heart for that type of stuff.
That's the next tool you'll find on iFantasy Racing.
and I also have one other saying about Joey Logano at super speed. It's not in my head right now, but it's like he's the perfect combination of smart and aggressive. There it is. Perfect combination of smart and aggressive at super speedways.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
I think he's the only driver who I have two sayings for, but why?
He's got a special place.
I guess I also have a Ricky Stenhouse Jr. one that he drives with I can't recall what it is exactly, but intensity second to none at super speedways.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate, and that it burns him more than it helps. But
Keselowski kind of giving him a run for the money though these last few years.
That's no joke. Yeah,
driving right through people.
Yeah.
So then when we want to start, like, let's say I want to start a redraft NASCAR fantasy contest with my buddies. First of all, what is the secret number? Like how many of my buddies do I need to get together? Because you don't want to dilute the pool too much. Like what's that sweet spot if I want to do a redraft number? What do you suggest, Ryan?
Well, for my neighborhood league, when it was up to 15 people, what we actually did is we had it divided into different groups. So that way the draft would actually be kind of fun. So people actually get good drivers, because otherwise, with NASCAR, I'd say maybe there's 15 actually good drivers back, when we did that. So I would divide it into different groups. Like we had a group called the Winston, different names like that.
Like divisions almost. That's a smart way to do it. Yeah.
So that way you don't have all 32 drivers that are actually, capable, all in one pool.
That makes a lot of sense.
I couldn't even imagine having just 30. I mean, having to get down to it and saying, yeah, I will go ahead and take Todd Gilliland and mean it. That would hurt my soul.
Mean it.
Well, without used to be, you did the snake draft or the serpentine drafting. There's always some sweet spot, where you kind of triple dip, into the talent.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it tough to do that style with NASCAR. It doesn't work as well as with football. Are you do you follow any other racing? Are you an IndyCar fan, F1 fan? Do you just stick strictly to NASCAR? Any other types of racing out there?
I would say I'm basically Cup exclusive. I mean, for me, with how my work schedule kind of works for working on content, Xfinity is kind of like background music in a way, background noise for me in a way, because when that's going on, I'm writing up finishing up the practice notes, the confidence rankings, putting other stuff to work, putting other stuff, getting it done.
Yeah, makes sense.
Truck Series is kind of entertainment, but I'm just a casual fan for that type of stuff. I mean, I kind of feel like I get my racing itch filled with Cup.
There you go. Yeah,
not hard to do. That's for sure.
No, it keeps you plenty busy too.
I mean, the schedule this year is just super crazy. I mean, no off weeks until the Olympics. Yeah, that is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Your head probably exploded as you saw that going. You're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Well, for me, I'd like an off week for Easter, a nice off week for Father's Day.
Yeah.
Got to keep some of these things clear. I mean, NASCAR is trying to get people in trouble all the time. It's always, something on Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. Now they do Easter. I mean, it's just asking for trouble for some people.
It is. It's you're like, your wife's like, it's Easter. Why is there a race on? Well, sorry, honey.
I mean, last year, I mean, with the practice schedule is, I'm missing the niece's first birthday party, It's just a lot of trouble, with all these races.
That's funny. So that's a question too. You brought up practice. Do you like it better with less practice, how it is now, or did you enjoy it more, or was it better for the info and everything when we had a bunch of practices and kind of all throughout the weekend.
I like the longer practice schedule. The old traditional practice on Friday, qualifying, then like 2 practices on Saturday. I preferred that schedule.
Yeah.
But today, if you guys seen it though, that there's actually some breaking NASCAR news that NASCAR is going to change how qualifying works to an extent.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
top 10 drivers are going to, still qualify 1 through 10, but then it's going to be the rows 6 through 20, which I don't know why they have to say 19 in row 20, but that's all going to be all even and odd.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting change. They're always tweaking with some of those formats, and it's like, do we really need to do this? But I suppose it makes it a little more fair as far as when the groups are out there and everything. But it's an interesting change.
It'll be helpful in a way for somebody like me who does content, because you'll get that information that much quicker.
True.
Because for me, what I'd always do is I would always wait basically until all the qualifying is done, hold my phone up to the TV, record it, as quick as I can, so that way I can begin the process.
That's old school stuff. Old school, and it only happened last year. That's insane.
Watching the scroll at the bottom and writing stuff down.
Listen, that's hashtag DGens only for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real men of fantasy.
Yes.
It's a grind.
Well, we know that.
Yeah, we don't even put in as much work as you do, and we know that it's a grind.
So then when we're putting all this to use, again, it's a lot of information. What's the best way, and maybe let's tackle this from a gambling aspect. What's the best way to sort of deploy all of the information that you give us? Because you give us plenty, but if you give somebody a lot of food and you don't tell them what's the best way to eat it, sometimes it's not going to get eaten properly or correctly. So what's the best way to use the information that you give us?
I would say probably the best way is kind of have a game plan heading into the weekend, know what key drivers to really focus on. But then when the weekend comes around, then you add in like the practice and, the starting position information. That way you can really, really focus in on guys, because there's some guys who are just going to be, super studs in practice. And there's some guys who were looking great heading into the weekend, but then you won't like them quite as much, following practice. And then they qualify really poorly.
So then it's better to go in with sort of a narrative in your head, or should you just let the number speak for itself? Because there's a lot of people that love to just go in and I guess validate what they are already thinking. And sometimes that's dangerous, because you can always pull numbers that make it seem like you know what you're talking about. But what's the level of come in with an open mind and come in with what you're already looking for? Should you balance?
I would say it's kind of dependent upon the track, like at Daytona and Atlanta, those places. You can almost basically set it and forget it. Daytona, you add in like the dual races, add in that element, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because some drivers can absolutely tank it. So I would say it's dependent upon the track, but for like an intermediate track, for example, there's drivers that there's going to be clear trends, a couple races into the season, or you can even have it from trends from like the last few races from last season, who are going to be the clear-cut favorites. There's some question marks, obviously, heading into this year. Toyota getting a new body, Ford having the dark horse, which is going to be slightly different. Chevy basically staying all the same. So Chevy could, have the early edge, at like an intermediate track, because they were so fast last year to begin with, but they're not going to be, people are going to be learning along the way as much as the other manufacturers. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I had a question and I totally forgot. Oh yeah, looking forward to this year. Do you have any bold prediction, or is there a driver? Because I know you're kind of looking through the races already. You're working on KUTT data. Is there anybody going into the season that you're for me, Tyler Reddick? I'm very high on him. I think he's going to have a huge breakout season, a really strong season. Is there any drivers so far with you kind of going through stuff that you're thinking, I really think that this driver is going to take a big leap or the next big step and become even more of a player, or maybe they've been a player and dominate even more than they have in the past?
I can't say I really think of a kind of like a dark horse that can really take the next step. Tyler Reddick, like you said, he could obviously do it, find a little bit more consistency and stuff like that. But one driver who, I mean, it's not really eating on me for the season, but one driver who's kind of coming on strong to me for the Clash is William Byron. I mean, you think about William Byron, you know, just 2 for 2 at finishing in the top 10 at the Clash, for example. Nothing too great. I think it's like a 6th and a 10th place finish. And he was also pretty bad at Martinsville. Like for the Clash, Martinsville success is something that I would want. But it's kind of eating up on me 24 and 24, you know, in a way. And even look
It worked for Joey a couple years ago, 22 and 22.
Even when you think back to the Clash specifically, it seems to be that the year number and the car number, those drivers have been strong. Like, for example, one driver who's going to be in the asterisk mark report for the Clash last year is a Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace was actually one of the best last year in the Clash. You see, I believe it's an ugly 21st next to him, but hands down one of the best. Led like 40 laps, booted disrespectfully right at the end by Austin Dillon.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, 24 and 24, you know, it's not a unique thinking thing on my part, but I think William Byron, actually, when I was doing the mock draft, I actually had William Byron number 1 for the year. But then I got a little bit nervous right at the end, and I made Kyle Larson number 1 right before, you know, I hit publish. But
that's really good info, because I mean, obviously he won, you know, the most races last season, but it's kind of that question of, does that really stick, and is that something we're going to continue to see going forward, or does he kind of regress back to where you more expect him to be? And so, you know, if you're a little bit higher on him, and obviously he's put it together, so, you know, maybe he continues to kind of take that next step and become more and more of a player and a guy that's near the top every week with Kyle Larson when it comes to odds and everything.
Yeah, with William Byron, some other thoughts of mine are that he was actually number 1 for the season in terms of total speed ranking. So, you know, he fielded the fastest car over, you know, the 36 races. I also like that, you know, his wins were across a diverse variety of tracks. Another thing is, you know, he was winning races that he shouldn't be winning races at. I think that's a championship attribute to be able to do that. And also another personal theory of mine is that drivers right before they're ready to win the championship, they seem to win a lot of races like the year before. Like before Matt Kenseth won his championship, I believe he won like 6 or 7 races that previous year. And then he only won the next year, but you know, he got that consistency stuff down.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that winning all those races is like one thing that leads you to the next step to be able to get it done.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that, drivers can really build up on that momentum, get those wins, and then they kind of learn, you know, he made it to the championship race, learned about it. Now, if he can get back there, maybe he takes that next step and becomes a champion.
So you were talking about him. He's 4th right now on your mock draft rating. So make sure you go to ifantasyrace.com. There's a 2024 Fantasy NASCAR driver ranking /mock draft. We're on version 3.0 now, which Kyle Larson does top that list. Then Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, William Byron. I'll only give you the top 4. If you want the rest, you got to go to the site. But some heavy hitters there.
That one's actually from PJ Walsh. Mine is number 1. So my link is at the bottom of that one.
Your link is at the bottom of that. Oh, there it is. 2.0 driver 1.0. That's from you. You've done 1. So it's Larson, Byron, Hamlin, and Bell. Those are your 4. Oh, that's a little bit different there. You got Byron up there a little bit longer or higher you talked about. But what about Bell? Bell in the top 5?
I mean, back-to-back championship Final Four appearances. I mean, another year of experience under his belt. I think, he's primed and ready for a big year.
Holy cow.
He is. Yeah.
Rye
Yeah. What's up, Rye?
Chat.
How's it going
Fellas?
in the
Hey,
chat?
what's going on?
I think Bell has the potential to be a guy that really hits big, especially he's kind of along with Ty Gibbs, obviously, but the next chapter of Gibbs and seems to be very talented. Back-to-back Final Four appearances is nothing to sneeze at either. So yeah, he's definitely a guy you have to watch this season.
He just needs a little bit more luck, in that championship Final Four. I mean, if he didn't have his, brake problem, exploded or something like that.
He was my guy this past year, and he was out early.
I mean, he loved his car in practice. I mean, he was ultra confident with it. I believe he said something like, it was the best car he ever had there.
Dang, damn brakes.
Yeah.
So you can find those on there as well as 2 other from David Rochester and Ryan Rance. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan, I cut you off. What was that?
I forgot.
Oh.
Forgot what I was going to say.
But no, there's so much on here. I mean, honestly, you would be spending a couple of days going through this, and that's the good part about it because, for us, we love to research ours as well. And we do a lot of other, we pull from others, but a majority of what you can get to, if you just want to start researching on your own and start getting ahead of the game, you can find it on ifantasyrace.com, because not only are the speed rankings up now, but they're up for the entire, every track out there. Of course, Ryan just alluded to the fact that he's got his dark horse out there where you can go and click on all of the next gen speed rankings, right? Which is just a fantastic layout of, and it's so simple. I mean, you click on it and you've got all of the tracks right there, except for, of course, the Iowa race, which there haven't been yet at all. And then, of course, the Indianapolis Oval, which there's nothing there for yet. But I'm telling you right now, folks, if you want to start researching your season as well, this is the best place to do it.
And I have another new few wrinkles, that I added during the off season. Another is driver rating, which is NASCAR specific stat, their top secret formula that's based on performance across, laps led, whole bunch of different things, Then another one that is new for this year is called driver stat links, which is basically a link, or track stat links. The driver stat links was already existing one, but the track stat links is a brand new one, which is I have direct stat link to the top websites for like stats based on the specific track, such as FRCS Pro, driver averages, and racing reference, direct links. So, I make it super easy to study. I am not a website professional myself, really. I may act like one in a way, but there's no way I can make like a database for some of these guys, like some of these other websites do for like driver stats specifically at Atlanta for finishes and stuff like that across all the different years. I wouldn't even have a clue how to do that type of stuff, but I link directly to it so other people can study for it.
Well, and that's really nice too, because even though you're not maybe necessarily able to create that tool specifically, you can still use your site to get to where you need to. So it's a one-stop shop for all the info you need. It's just right there. So that is something that's very nice about your site. And that's
the tool I alluded to earlier, that even if I'm the only one who uses it, I'm gonna
you
appreciate
won't be,
that
trust
one.
me.
Because one thing I really like to use that for is at racing reference. When you look at like at the bottom of those pages for like things that happen to the driver list, specifically, what drivers crashed, it shows you, the laps led, other information that, I couldn't really provide out, but, other people have stuff too. So I linked directly to it.
Yeah. Love it.
You've replaced all of my bookmarks for all the other stuff, and that's exactly it. All I got to do now is just one click and it's there. I don't have to go searching for anything, which is, I absolutely love it.
That's what the driver stat link preview, or the driver stat links page, is basically about too. Direct links for the drivers at all those given websites.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. Well, we're going to begin to wrap things up here, but I want to give the floor to you, Ryan, just a real quick pitch for, we've pretty much pitched the thing all day long, but just one more final pitch on why folks should be consuming content on iFantasyRace and really the driving philosophy behind the entire site for the users.
Well, my website motto is ifantasyrace.com, the way you fantasy race. It's basically based on how I would, kind of go about all the different stats I would like. It's almost a labor of love in a way. But, I don't really have an elevator pitch or anything like that, but it's really great, place to look for different stats, speed analytics. I love speed analytics based, when I start first fantasy racing and practice speeds, that was like the main thing. But now, NASCAR, it turns out that they have speed analytics for all different types of things. And I put it out there so everyone can see it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And again, the site speaks for itself. You don't need an elevator pitch to sell it. Like, go check it out. And it sells itself. It's got a lot of the stuff you need. It's got really everything you need for, and again, like your fantasy games, whatever. Again, I'm in a ton of different types of fantasy leagues, salary cap stuff or the group game type of stuff where you pick different ones. There's all sorts of different stuff out there. There's tools in there that's helpful for all of it. Again, if you play DraftKings, we're going to use it for Underdog this year. We're going to continue doing the fantasy stuff with that, making picks on that. You can use it for that kind of stuff. You can use it when it comes to betting on NASCAR. So again, it is all encompassing. You can use the stats and the data there for everything that we like to do, which is amazing.
Highly applicable.
Highly applicable across so many disciplines, and that's the great part about it. So look, if you want to join a fantasy league, I'm sure Ryan will send you a few of the invitations that he has to politely decline as he gets hit up every time. But look, they're not hard to find, right? I know that you get a lot of invitations, Ryan, but where can people easily find a couple of fantasy leagues to join?
I mean, I don't really have any direct links for that type of stuff, but some of the things like you guys said along the way, driver group games, that's my friend Darren Falth's game. I mean, there's also NASCAR.com has a game.
Yeah, and we'll have our fantasy league for the show that we run through the NASCAR Fantasy Live. So yeah, that'll be. I don't know if they've activated the game for this year or not. I need to look, but we'll get that all set up, and we'll have another big gift store merch card. Or gift. Wow, a merch store gift card. That's what I was trying to say there. For that, so that'll be awesome. One more question for you: are you a football fan at all? I mean, you live in Michigan. You got the Michigan Wolverines here lately. Detroit Lions. Are you into football at all, or not really?
100% Wolverines all the time, even in the tough times. You know, this year was a beautiful year. I would say I'm a new Lions fan. I always joke that I'll watch the Lions if they're in the playoffs because. I mean,
that's
Lions,
one of those things where it's like, I'll never have to worry about this. And now all of a sudden it's like,
I
have to do it.
I've watched more Lions minutes in the last 2 weeks than I've watched in, the last 20 years, I'm sure.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's crazy, but, to make up for it all, my high school team, they haven't won a game in probably about 20 years. So
it all balances out, right?
Yep. I'm a Nebraska fan, so I know all about that.
Cody knows nothing.
But the Wolverines winning the championship, beating Ohio State 3 years in a row, crushing mighty Alabama. Well, maybe they didn't crush them, but beating mighty Alabama, on the way with all that trash talk.
Ending Nick Saban even.
Yeah, I mean, Saban's going to go out that way. I mean,
yeah, that's oof.
Tail between his legs. That's where he's going out. So.
But that was something super special. I mean, I remember when Michigan won the last championship in 97. But this one,
well, Nebraska won the championship in 97, but Michigan claimed half of it, whatever.
Well, we know what would have happened if they played on the field. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. But that's Michigan winning the championship is just something special, and especially that the tough times are probably ahead now again.
I love it. All right. Well, then, as we begin to get out of here, Ryan, I'm going to give you one last chance to tell everybody where they can find you on social media. Because again, while all of your stuff is great on the website, you also put a lot of great stuff out on social media as well. The dude never sleeps because
you get just as much good info from his Twitter page.
it really, I mean, yeah, his Twitter page is chock full of everything good, but there's also more on top of that. So Ryan, where can everybody find you on social media?
Well, on Twitter, it's at ifantasyrace, but I made it a little simpler for people that you don't even have to remember the ifantasyrace part. I actually have a domain link to it. It's Oval Monster. So oval.monster. You can go directly to my Twitter.
There you go.
So I'm sitting in that sitting on that domain just for my Twitter.
I love it.
I mean, it's perfect because I rolled that out at Dover last year. It's Oval Monster.
Nice.
So
beautiful.
I mean, I love it. If I were to have like another domain, that would probably be it because that sounds so cool. Oval Monster, especially with like Godzilla rolling around right now. It just seems a little extra cooler, Then I have Facebook. I'm not too good at Facebook, but it's facebook.com/ifantasyrace.
There you go.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right, Cody, how can they find you on social media?
Yep. Follow me on the X at Husker_Zeeb. Find all of my stuff over there. I did want to give a plug real quick. Daytona 500 contest. That is live. You can find the link over on X at NASCAR Gambling. It's in the pin tweet. It's in the Discord, sg.pn/Discord. Also, we have a Facebook page, NASCAR Gambling Podcast. So it's all over there. $100 and a $100 SGPN merch gift card to the winner. Very simple. Just got to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. Take a screenshot of that. Pick your winner in the form, and that's it. Easy peasy. So yeah, that's it. And we'll be back later this week. We got more lined up. we're full 5 days a week now. Next week is Clash week. Oh, I can't fucking wait.
I know. It's getting so close. When we get Clash week, it's all hands on deck again. We got a couple of days where we're still going to kind of, go over stuff, but next week we're hitting it hard. We're hitting it fast. So be prepared. All right. Once again, thanks to Ryan Rance for joining us. Make sure you go check out ifantasyrace.com. Fantastic thing. This has been an entire commercial for it, but I don't care because I guarantee you're going to love every second you spend on that site. So just have some fun with that. Find me on X at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bot, everything I got going on. Royal Rumble happening this weekend, so find the odds over there on the Twitter. And we'll just have some fun for the rest of the week, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.